They say God is everywhere, in the air we breathe, in the quiet moments before sleep, in the laughter of children and the rhythm of the waves. But if that's true, why has no one ever truly found him? Across history, humans have searched the heavens for a sign, some trace of a divine fingerprint on reality. We built temples, burned offerings, and whispered prayers into the dark, hoping someone, or something, was listening. Yet the sky has always answered with silence. Every religion claims to have solved this mystery, but their answers rarely agree. The Christian says God is love, the Muslim says God is power, the Hindu says God is everything, the Buddhist sidesteps the question entirely, and each insists that everyone else is wrong. How can something so supposedly universal look so different from one culture to another? When ancient people didn't understand lightning, they said it was Zeus. When crops failed, they blamed angry spirits. When the earth shook, they said the gods were fighting. But as our knowledge grew, the realm of mystery, the space where gods used to hide, kept shrinking. The more we understood, the less divine the world appeared. We mapped the stars, dissected cells, decoded DNA, and found no trace of a hand guiding it all. No celestial signature, no whisper from above, just matter, energy, and a vast, indifferent universe. And still, the question lingers. If God is everywhere, why is he nowhere to be seen? Some believers argue that God hides because he wants us to have faith. But what does that say about him? That truth must be hidden for belief to survive. Imagine any other claim that demanded invisibility as proof of existence. If your friend told you there's an invisible tiger in the room, would you admire your faith for believing it? Or your reason for checking the door? Faith, they say, fills the gap between evidence and hope. But what if that gap is the only thing keeping the idea alive? Consider the prayers that never reach an answer, the dying child whose parents kneel beside her bed, begging for mercy, the disaster victims who plead for rescue while the faithful perish beside the skeptic. If there is a God in this picture, his silence is indistinguishable from absence. Throughout history, divine silence has been reinterpreted endlessly. When prayers fail, believers call it mystery. When good people suffer, they call it testing. When horrors unfold, they call it part of a plan. But these explanations only shift the goalpost further from reason. They defend the idea, not the truth. Perhaps the harder truth is this: the world behaves exactly as it would if no one were watching. Morality, kindness, cruelty, chaos. All of it continues with or without divine supervision. The earthquake doesn't pause for prayer. Cancer doesn't spare the devout. Rain falls on saints and sinners alike. Nature doesn't discriminate because nature doesn't care. The illusion of divine presence often thrives in the cracks of our understanding. In the moments of grief, fear, or awe, when our minds crave meaning most, we imagine it. We humanize randomness because the alternative, that no one is in control, feels unbearable. But comfort and truth have never been the same thing. The story of human civilization is, in many ways, the story of chasing that comfort. From cave paintings to cathedrals, we've built monuments not to gods, but to our own need for them. Every altar is a mirror reflecting the human desire to matter. And that's the real paradox. We created gods to give our lives purpose, yet the existence of gods often strips us of responsibility. If everything is God's plan, then nothing is truly ours. Every tragedy becomes divine will. Every success, divine favor. Personal accountability dissolves into submission. Yet the evidence points the other way. Progress has always come from those who stopped waiting for miracles. We cured diseases not through prayer, but through research. We conquered darkness not with holy words, but with electricity. The things we once attributed to divine power are now powered by human hands. Maybe that's where the real miracle is, within us, not above us. But humanity keeps asking the same question: where is God? And the most honest answer may be that we never lost him, because he was never there to begin with. Still, the search continues. Because the idea of God isn't just a belief. It's a lens through which we interpret everything. Even without proof, the longing remains. That longing tells us more about ourselves than about any deity. Every generation inherits the same unanswered question: where is God? And every generation invents a new way to explain the silence. Some say he's testing us. Others say he's beyond comprehension. A few even claim he hides to protect our free will, as if cosmic invisibility were an act of kindness. But these explanations tell us more about our fear of emptiness than about any divine presence. If a being truly wanted to be known, could the universe ever hide him? Think about that. If an all-powerful creator designed existence, wouldn't the evidence be woven into everything, so obvious that doubt would be impossible? Instead, we find a universe that operates perfectly fine, without divine involvement. Planets orbit, stars collapse, life evolves, and none of it requires a god's intervention. The cosmos runs on laws, not prayers. In ancient times, people imagined gods dwelling in the skies because they believed the heavens were pure and unreachable. But now, we've gone there. We've walked on the moon, peered beyond galaxies, listened to the echoes of the Big Bang itself, and what we found wasn't the throne of a deity. It was the quiet hum of physics, mathematics, and time. No temple in the stars, no heavenly choir, just infinite space and the cold, elegant beauty of natural law. The more we've looked outward, the more the divine has retreated inward. When telescopes couldn't find him, believers said, "He's not in the sky, he's in the heart." But that's the last refuge of any idea losing ground to evidence. When something can't be found outside, it moves inside, into emotion, into metaphor, into the realm where proof no longer applies. But even there, the question lingers. If God is in the heart, then why do human hearts so often contradict each other? Why does one person's revelation justify peace, while another's justifies violence? Why does one man's holy vision lead him to charity, and another's to war? If God's voice were truly speaking from within, wouldn't it sound the same in everyone? Instead, what we call God's voice sounds remarkably like our own conscience, shaped by culture, language, and upbringing. A child born in Mecca learns to hear Allah. A child in Rome hears Jesus. A child in Delhi hears Krishna, each one convinced that their inner voice is divine truth. But what they're really hearing are echoes of the stories told around them since birth. If God's presence were universal, belief would be consistent. Yet, it isn't. Religion follows geography, not evidence. The map of faith looks suspiciously like the map of human history. Conquests, migrations, empires. Gods don't spread themselves. People spread gods. And for all the billions who claim divine presence, the universe behaves as if indifferent. Hurricanes don't avoid churches. Floods don't pause for prayer meetings. Children die mid-prayer while murderers walk free. If this is divine design, it's indistinguishable from chaos. The most powerful argument believers often give is not logical, but emotional. They'll say, "I feel God's presence." And that's a deeply human thing, to interpret intense emotion as connection to something greater. But feelings aren't evidence, they're interpretations. We can feel awe before a mountain, love before a child, grief before loss. And those feelings are real, profound, and transformative. But calling them God doesn't explain them, it renames them. And if we're honest, our sense of divine presence tends to appear most when we're most vulnerable. Grief, fear, despair. These are the moments when our minds reach out desperately for meaning. We imagine someone listening because the silence feels unbearable. That instinct is ancient. It's built into our psychology. The same impulse that made early humans pray to the rain makes us pray to the unknown. But silence is still silence, no matter how we interpret it. The stars don't answer. The wind doesn't whisper back. The only voice that speaks in prayer is our own. Some thinkers have argued that humanity doesn't need God to explain reality. We created the concept of God to explain ourselves. Because consciousness is terrifying. We wake up in a universe we didn't design, facing questions we can't fully answer. Why am I here? What happens when I die? Why is there suffering? These are questions that demand comfort, and God became the most comforting word ever invented. But comfort and truth are not the same. The universe doesn't owe us meaning. It simply is. The stars don't shine for us. They shine because they must. The tides don't care who prays by the shore. They follow gravity, not grace. This realization can feel cold, even cruel, but there's also a strange liberation in it. Because when we stop waiting for someone above to fix the world, we begin to realize it's been our responsibility all along. The absence of God doesn't make life meaningless. It makes life ours to define. And maybe that's what people fear most about the question, where is God? Not that he's gone, but that we might be alone, and therefore accountable. Without divine orders, morality must come from empathy, reason, and shared humanity. Without cosmic purpose, meaning must be built, not bestowed. That's harder. But it's also more honest. For thousands of years, people have claimed divine intervention in wars, politics, and morality. Kings have ruled by God's will. Armies have marched in God's name. Yet every time, it's human hands holding the sword. Human greed